Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright people, review of the week time. This could be one where you really do need to get the kettle on, because we could be going for a while in this one anyway. Now, I didn't do a post-fight review for Errol Spence versus Yordenis Ugas. I actually was busier than I thought I would be yesterday, but I did get a chance to do the live stream. I talked about it there, but obviously we're going to talk about it more in depth here. And I watched it yesterday morning, and Errol Spence going into this Yordenis Ugas fight, I thought this fight would be much tougher than it was. Now, Errol Spence, for my money, he wasn't badly hurt in the 6th round, but for sure he was definitely buzzed. Errol Spence to me showed that he can recover quite well, and that was really the only crisis in the fight that you could really speak of for Errol Spence. As I said, going into this fight, I was worried about Errol Spence because he had inactivity. In the Danny Garcia fight, albeit he won it convincingly, and that's the best anyone's won against Danny Garcia, he still didn't quite look like the Errol Spence pre-crash. And going into the Pacquiao fight, which never happened, he obviously had the eye injury. I think it was a torn retina. And you worry about that because you worry that could potentially flare up again. So I'm looking at all this from the outside looking in. I remember how bad that crash was, and I just think we're not going to get the same Errol Spence again. And I don't like that, because I probably one of my top 2 favourite American fighters just to watch is Errol Spence. I've always loved watching Errol Spence. I've always been a fan of his. When's the first time I watched him? I think I watched him first in 2014. In around then, 2014, 2015. So I've been keen on Errol Spence for a long, long time. And I really didn't think, heart of hearts, I didn't think we'd see the same Errol Spence again. But I've delighted to have been proven wrong by Errol Spence in that fight, because he looked, I would say that you could argue it's his most complete performance potentially, because Yordenis Ugas early on was a bit tricky looking to counter Errol Spence, but Yordenis Ugas really did play into Errol Spence's strengths in the sense that he was tucking up. He was making himself a big, easy target for Errol Spence to light up combinations on. And when you look at Errol Spence, when you look at his attack, especially when he goes to the body, I mean, Errol Spence's body shots, you just grimace every time you see them land on opponents, because his body attacks are right up there with some of the best in boxing. I would say that Errol Spence, Canelo, and Naoya Inoue, just a few examples of fighters who are absolutely lethal when it comes to body attacks and combination punching to the body specifically. You got to say, like Errol Spence, Canelo's a very good body puncher, wicked body puncher, and Naoya Inoue. I mean, Naoya Inoue's body attack is just, it just makes you wince whenever you see it. Errol Spence is right up there. And yes, he was buzzed. It was a bizarre one in the 6th round, because he was buzzed slightly from Yordenis Ugas' right hand. Then his mouthpiece came out, and he looked down at the mouthpiece, and then Ugas buzzed him back up again the rope. The referee, Lawrence Cole, called break because obviously the mouthpiece. Now, I do think that Spence was genuinely hurt. I don't think it was a case of people saying like, oh, he was just kind of caught off guard and he wasn't hurt. No, I do think he was buzzed, but I don't think he was badly buzzed. And I think that Errol Spence showed to me that he can recover reasonably quickly from being buzzed, and that we've seen it in before in the past. I forget the guy's name. I think it was back in 2015. His name escapes me. Oh no, it's gone. If I look at his box rec, I'll probably find it, but his name escapes me. But Errol Spence, back when he was up and coming, I think it would have been about 2015, he was buzzed, and he was noticeably buzzed against the guy in one of his earlier fights. And like that, he was able to just ride out the storm, get through it, and then was able to pick up the win. I'm just looking here. It might have been Francisco Javier Castrillo. That might have been it. I think that was it, actually. I think that was the fight where he was buzzed. But it was a great performance from Errol Spence. Also on that card, you had Bataille versus Stanionis. Stanionis, I actually thought that would be a really, really hit and miss tough fight, but Stanionis did a fantastic job in there, won the fight, and Stanionis is now moving on to bigger and better things. Now, interestingly, I want to go back to I want to go back to Errol Spence versus Yordenis Ugas now in a second. But Conor Benn also had a fight on the weekend. We obviously know about that. I'll talk more about that in depth. But they brought up the WBA regular title, which is what Stanley Ones now has. And I'm putting Eddie Hearn on blast for this comment. Listen to this. Eddie Hearn was quoted as saying, if Conor Benn would fight for a regular WBA title, and he said, F the regular title, F the regular title. You win a regular title, it's, oh, you ain't world champion. Stanley Ones, really tough fighter, you won't even get credit for being a world champion. Okay, Eddie. How come you're promoting Lee Wood as world champion when he's still regular champion? You're saying Maxie Hughes, and I've got a lot of time for Maxie Hughes, but you're saying he's world champion when he's IBO champion. You were happy to promote Scott Quigg when he was regular champion, world champion. You were happy to do that. You were happy to look for Josh Warrington to have a unification with Can Do when he was regular champion. So if it's not a real world title, how come you were so keen to get these fighters in there? You know? People always say, like, gee, you're very harsh on Eddie Hearn. No. I like Eddie Hearn. I think he's a great promoter. I really do. But I gotta call out BS when I see it. And that BS right there. Again, happy to... Lee Wood is a regular champion. Technically, and I don't agree with this, but technically, Leo Santa Cruz is still the WBA champion at 126 pounds. I don't agree with it. He's not fought that division for 3 years. They should have stripped him. Nevertheless, Lee Wood is still the champion. Eddie Hearn happy to promote him as world champion, or is still the regular champion. Happy to promote him as world champion. IBO, not a recognised title. Happy to promote Maxie Hughes as world champion. Scott Quigg, when he became regular champion, and him and Frampton, no parts of Rickendale. That was back when Rickendale was I think he was WBO and WBA champion at 122. No parts of that. Still promoted Scott Quigg as champion. You know? And obviously when Kanzu was regular champion a couple of years ago, before Lee Wood fought him, Eddie Hearn wanted he wanted Josh Warrington to fight him in first the unification, and then Josh Warrington vacated, and then he wanted Josh Warrington to get by Lara, we all thought he would, and then fight Kanzu in what was built as a world title fight, which was never going to be a world title fight according to Eddie Hearn here, because that was for a regular title. So I put Eddie Hearn on blast with that comment. And again, people be like, you're very harsh on Matchroom. Do you hate Matchroom? I've been called a Matchroom hater. I've also been called out and said I'm clearly on the Matchroom payroll. It's called objectivity. You know, I don't give a flying you-know-what how good Eddie Hearn does or how bad Eddie Hearn does. Same with Bob Arum. Same with all them promoters. I don't care. Alright, I just want to see good fights. And if Eddie Hearn puts on a card next month that's brilliant, that just ticks all the boxes, he'll get nothing but praise from me. If he says something, however, that is like this, where he's clearly contradicting himself, then I'm going to call it out. That's called journalism. We don't have enough of it in the world today, unfortunately. But back on to Errol Spence. Errol Spence gets the win over your Dennis Ugas. He is now WBC, IBF, and WBA champion. So only Terence Crawford waits in the ring. Now Crawford put on Twitter, congratulations, Errol Spence, great fight. Now the real fight happens. No more talk, no more other side of the street, let's go. Errol Spence said after the fight that everyone knows I want who I want. I want Crawford next. That's the fight I want. That's the fight everyone wants. Crawford, I'm coming for the mother something belts. So I have wanted this fight since 2017. Errol Spence said that he has 2 fights left at 147 pounds, of which this was one of them. So his next fight should be the last fight at 120 or 147 pounds. So it's got to be against Crawford for undisputed. Now the problem has been, there's been several problems, and I'm not saying it's all been on Errol Spence's side. I do think Crawford needs to be realistic in terms of what he brings to the table and what he's expecting to get out of this. Yes, it's a unification, but Errol Spence is coming to the tables. He is a bigger star in the US, of which I've no doubt. He is a bigger star. He has 3 of the 4 titles. Terence Crawford, realistically, is 50-50 is out of the question for Crawford. That's just realistically. He would have to take the B-side in this fight. He would. 60-40, even that at this stage, I would say is a bit of an ask. I think 70-30 is more what Crawford is going to get in this fight. I think Crawford may have to humble himself to that if he wants to get this fight over the line. If, and it's a big if Crawford and Spence can get this on, then I think that for boxing purists, this is one of the best fights that can be made at all. Like, honestly, I would look forward to this fight more than I look forward to Whyte Fury the weekend. I look forward to Crawford versus Spence more than AJ versus Fury Undisputed or Usyk versus Fury Undisputed. This fight right here is a fight I've been keen on seeing for years, and I would be just so happy if they could get this fight over the line. I think that any boxing fan in their right mind would want to see Spence versus Crawford. Two elite welterweights. The way I have a look at it is, the welterweight division is literally a case of, the welterweight division throughout history has always produced good fighters. There's never really been a time in the welterweight division where you've looked at it and said it's a bit weak. You know, there's one guy who's good and the rest of the division is a bit crap. There's never really been it's always had good fighters in it. Right? Now, when I look at the division, I see good fighters. I see your Dennis Ugas, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, guys like that. All very good fighters. They're all at the upper echelons. But then you have Spence and Crawford, who are just on another level. And I want to see them both guys fight. I really do. I really want to see both those guys fight. I think that fight would just... Man, I would favour Crawford slightly. And I'm a big Spence fan, but I would favour Crawford slightly just based on styles in that fight. But make no mistake about it, I think it's a fantastic fight for both men. I really, really do. In terms of some of the other boxing that happened this weekend, I should say, obviously I already talked about it in my post-fight, but Conor Benn got the win over Chris Van Heerden. We all expected that now, it has to be said, and, you know, I wonder what he's going to do next moving forward, because the names Eddie Hearn mentioned were Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Keith Thurman. Now, both Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia will be excellent opponents for Conor Benn. I think he has a better chance against Garcia than he does against Thurman. I think Thurman still has a little bit more left than I gave him credit for initially. I forget who someone said Thurman was going to fight in the summer, but apparently he's going to fight someone in the summer anyway. So I'd say that fight's ruled out anyway. Both guys are PBC guys. They're not coming to the zone, and they're going to want astronomical amounts of money. I mean, like, Kell Brook apparently wanted 10 million. They're going to want something similar. So you may as well just get Kell Brook in there, because they're going to want something similar as well, and they're probably not going to want to travel. In terms of Mikey Garcia, that fight I could conceivably see. I could, because Mikey at this stage just wants whatever money you can give me. Give me a big payday and I'll fight. That is the way I see it with Mikey Garcia. Since he came back and he won that title off Darchinian, yeah, even a little bit after that, when he pretty much after he beat Broner, he just started calling guys out in, like, I remember he was calling guys out. I think he even said he wanted to fight, was it Miguel Cotto, at one stage at 154 pounds before Cotto retired. And he wanted to fight someone else as well, but he was on about going up crazy weight divisions, like going up to 154, 147, because he just wanted the big money fights. That's all it is with really Mikey Garcia. As good a fighter as he is, the hunger for boxing is just not there. And if you see him in between fights lately, he's been looking like a bleeding cruiserweight outside the ring. You know, going into the Sandor Martin fight, I thought he'd win. I didn't expect him to lose, but I thought it'd be a tough fight, because Garcia had been looking like a blown up light heavyweight prior to that fight, so I thought, gee, he's going to have a hard weight cut and he might not look good. But right now I think Garcia is just, he wants a payday. So I could easily, if Eddie Hearn got the checkbook out, Mikey Garcia conceivably, yes. Broner was also mentioned. Broner, well, he'd want a big payday. He's shot to pieces. People were saying that he was intoxicated at the fights the weekend, at the Spence fight. Broner should be nowhere near a boxing ring, in my opinion. Should be just nowhere near a boxing ring, should Adrian Broner be. Like, he's shot to pieces. I don't think he's just, his head's not been right for years. I was going to say it's not right now, but I don't think Broner's head's been right for years. I think he's got a lot of issues. A lot of issues going on with Adrian Broner. Lastly was Amir Khan. They got him in the ring, and Carl Froch Carl Froch has really grown on me as a pundit. I didn't like him at first. I thought he was a bit kind of... As a pundit, I thought he was just a bit like, you don't really know much about what's going on. But now he's really grown on me. He is funny. I do enjoy listening to him. And yeah, he definitely doesn't have good boxing knowledge in terms of, he doesn't really know how to break down a fight. But in terms of banter, in terms of wit, sarcasm, Carl Froch is one of the best in the business. He is hilarious. What he said, Amir Khan's only good for... And I know he doesn't like Amir Khan, there's a bit of beef there. But he said Amir Khan's only good for getting knocked out. And he is. I mean, Carl Froch telling it like it is. Amir Khan hasn't been covering himself in glory the last few years. I mean, if he's near any building site, he'd be covering himself in more dust than glory. That's Amir Khan. And I don't think he should be anywhere near Conor. And to be honest with you, like Amir Khan, I think it was Ben Shalom said that he's looking at the Kell Brook rematch, or he's looking at having a comeback fight. If I was in Amir Khan's team, I'd be saying, even against a nobody, just don't. Because you've taken enough punishment as it is. And I just don't think his body can handle another... I don't think his body will get through another camp, much less another fight. So Amir Khan, I will be saying, please retire. In terms of some of the fights on that card, obviously Campbell Hatton had a win over Emmanuel Georges. He looked shocking in that fight, he really did. Campbell Hatton, no disrespect to the kid, but he is going absolutely nowhere in boxing. Absolutely nowhere. It's not like... See, when Conor Benn, as I said, came about first, I didn't think much of him. I thought that he'd never even win a British title. Now, Conor Benn has improved massively. But with Benn, although he looked poor when he came around first, and so did actually Chris Eubank Jr., actually, funny enough. Chris Eubank Jr. looked very poor early on. He didn't even seem to have any punching power early on, but he's improved as well. But you could see athleticism in Eubank. You could see it in Conor Benn. You could see, okay, he's very raw, he's very crude, but I can see how you can improve him. Not to a world elite level, but you could improve him to a level where he will do something, if you get me. With Campbell Hatton, I just think no matter what they do with him, he's like every fight he's in, there's a really good chance he could lose. And I'm talking about guys that are plucked from obscurity. Like, he was getting hit for fun in this fight. It's no. Chris Billum Smith beat Tommy McCarthy. That was a good win from Billum Smith, a very good win. I thought he looked very good in that fight. I really do. Obviously, Elisa Baumgardner beat Edith Matisse, shut her out. Good performance from Baumgardner. I was expecting her to stop Matisse, but she definitely boxed very well, boxed to a good game plan. It was a bit sad that she wasn't on higher up the card, because I think she has a lot to give. She's a very good fighter. So, a bit disappointed there in terms of just her not being up in the card. In terms of performance, it was fine. Absolutely fine. Let's talk about some other news that's been happening. So, where do we go? I want to talk about this Ortiz situation, this Luis Ortiz situation. Where is it? So, Luis Ortiz and Andy Ruiz, right? It's reported now that Andy Ruiz is set to fight Luis Ortiz next. It's claimed Ruiz signed the contract to fight Ortiz a while ago, right? Now on Thursday, was it Thursday or Friday? I think it was actually Friday. Might have been Thursday, actually, I'm not sure. But it was one of them days anyway. Andy Ruiz, it was very random. I mean, like, I was like, what? Andy Ruiz announced that he'll be fighting, not even on PBC or Showtime, but that he will be fighting Tyrone Spine on Triller pay-per-view. Now, I took that to mean Andy Ruiz has just thrown a towel in terms of trying to get a world title or anything like that, and that he is just looking for the biggest money fights, because Triller, as we know, bit of a joke platform. And what I mean by that is, it's just that they're really there kind of for the novelty fights. They do put on the odd card, the commentary is quite funny, but they're really kind of one of them joke platforms, but they pay their fighters outrageous sums of money. And I got the impression that that was what Andy Ruiz was looking at, that he was just looking to go on the Triller and just make some big paydays, fight some guys like Spoing, and then sail off into the sunset. But obviously, the contract is apparently signed for Ortiz, so I would imagine that if that contract is bulletproof, and Al Heyman contracts normally there's not much getting around them. Not too much getting around them. So I would imagine that Luis Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz will then happen. because it's been signed for. So we'll wait and see what the situation there is. I mentioned Kell Brook earlier, and Kell Brook, this is an interesting one. So Kell Brook, it seems Eubank Jr. and him is pretty much a done deal. They just need to agree on some certain things. And Kell Brook was quoted on TalkSport saying that all I have to do to beat Chris Eubank Jr. is just turn up. Just get in the ring, turn up, and I'll beat him. I've boxed my whole life. He can't box, in my opinion. So Brook's already coming out talking. This will be at a catch weight. And honestly, when I saw Kell Brook in that Amir Khan fight, yes, Amir Khan had diminished significantly, but Kell Brook looked very sharp. He did. There's no question Kell Brook has very good timing, he's very good long range boxer, has very good jab. The Crawford fight, Kell Brook looked so poor in terms of how he was on the scales that you got to figure he's going to have an extra 11 pounds on him. That really could pay dividends to Kell Brook. I still probably will side with Eubank Jr. in this fight, probably, because I just think he's a bit more fresher and I think he is improving ever so slightly. But I think this fight is a lot more interesting than I originally thought it would have been. Originally I was thinking, oh Jesus, no, not Kell Brook and I think it was name not Kell Brook and Eubank Jr. just said it. Now I'm kind of more like, yeah, I think it could be a very good fight. This was funny. This was a funny one from during the week. Obviously, this week is fight week. I have something, I said it before, I'll say it again. I have something planned, specifically for Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury. It's just taken a long time to get it all rendered. It's done, but it's just taken a very, very long time to get it all rendered. I'm hoping to have it up this evening, because all the work has been done. It's just a case of getting it rendered, and that's taken a while. It could take another 8 hours, but hopefully today we can get that up, because I think you're going to enjoy it. And I think that I think it's going to be something that people are going to enjoy. I think that. So hopefully we get that up today. In terms of other things about this fight, obviously I've got some prediction videos planned. I've got some key points. Doing a lot of breakdowns of this fight this week. And obviously I want to get some people on and have a live stream. I want to get some subscribers on, have a chat with them. One of the days this week. So do a live stream and just get a few subscribers on. Give me your opinion on. I never do it. I never get subscribers on. I need to do that because it's a good way of getting to know some of you guys. But David Haye picked Dillian Whyte to beat Tyson Fury. And John Fury came out swinging. Oh man. He even said he made it quite clear to Frank Warren he should not be allowed to be commentating on my son's fight. Otherwise there will be a problem. A hater, I don't want him near my family. He squared up to Carl Frampton. And Carl Frampton's never had an issue with the Furies, because Frampton picked Jake Paul to beat Tommy Fury. And now, David Haye and Tyson have had a history, we know that. But I hope to God BT Sport don't pull David Haye from the punditry team, because David Haye, I've said it once, I'll say it again, one of my favourite pundits. I think him and Carl Frampton work very well together. I think Carl Frampton is obviously has his head more screwed on than David Haye in terms of the boxing aspect of it. But David Haye, his charisma, his banter, I love it. I think that he fits the bill very well, as does Carl Frampton. They complement themselves very well. I remember they used to have Andy Lee on BT the odd time with them as well, and he would fit them all very well. I think the three of them are a very good team in terms of just the actual commentary team. I don't really like John Rowland, but that's a minor nitpick. In terms of BT, I hope to God they keep David Haye on. I hope they don't, bow down to John Fury, because John Fury goes on his little rants and he has his temper tantrums from time to time, and he seems to think that just picking against Fury, any Fury, is just disrespectful. Well, it's not really. I mean, Carl Frampton understands the game. He knows what he's looking for in fighters, and he obviously saw Jake Paul and Tommy Fury both being at a similar level in favour in Jake Paul. And John Fury. Carl Frampton's 5'2", 5'3". How tall is John Fury? 6'3", 300 pounds, squaring up to Carl Frampton. Really? That's silly, man. necessarily just because he didn't do anything bad. He just picked against your son. It happens, you know. So that's John Fury for you. But John Fury, at the end of the day, you can't not laugh when you see John Fury go on his rants, because he has no filter. And that's one thing I like about John Fury, is that he has no filter. He doesn't give a rat's if he pisses someone off or not. He just says it like it is. And I like that as well. I just don't like it when he squares up to guys way smaller than him for really nothing, saying, "You disrespected me and my sons." It's like, he picked against you. I mean, I'm sure he respects all of you. So that's pretty much that. I think that's pretty much good to go. I got what I wanted to say in there. So I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What you think? You looking forward to the fights this weekend? Hopefully I get what I have planned sorted for this evening, and we'll be good to go. For now, lads and lassies, I'll leave you with that. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll talk to these people. Peace.